I recently had the opportunity to participate in a scientific hackathon on photosynthesis that happened in Accra, Ghana, where scientists, breeders, data scientists, computational biologists, and agri-tech specialists came together to explore how photosynthetic measurement from the field connect to crop genetics and productivity. I also took the time to engage and speak with participants, asking them this question: why is photosynthesis important? Or why does it matter to the future of agriculture? And here is what they had to say.
We believe that there are actually associations between some of the photosynthetic traits and how well the plants are performing. There is more evidence being published in a very recent months that are identifying particular measurements that can be derived from the fluorescence that are then a good predictor of a plant's genotype. We do believe that by devoting more resources to further deeper analysis, we can identify more of them.
And the idea is it's a whole lot of happenings around the world, global warmings, erratic rainfall patterns, and you have a whole lot of issues going on with crop production in most of these growing areas, particularly to sub-Saharan Africa, where you have most of the smallholder farmers contributing to most of the crop production. And a whole lot of climate change impact is happening around those production in those agricultural areas. And it's really important we look at innovators area to improve crop resilience, and one of the major approaches is photosynthesis. So the idea of what we are doing here at this hackathon to actually look at what happens if we're able to understand physiology data set and try to link them to crop itself, the crop yield itself, and that can give us a roadmap to see how to improve some of these abiotic stress traits like photosynthesis and translate them to improving yield. So in general, we've tried to kind of boost crop resilience and productivity to match the future and current climates that could arise.
And as a breeder, I see the importance of merging photosynthetic traits with yield and every other processes, because it's very important to understand how plants make use of the photoactive radiation that is coming from the sun to translate into meaningful yield. And then when you look at it very well, you understand that photosynthesis as a process is being very controlled by the environment. So when we understand the environmental factors at play, and given the climate change that we have now, we have heat, drought, stress also impacting on environmental factors. So when we are able to understand what is happening, how the plants are using the light and photosynthesizing very well, that contributes to yield, then we can be able to make careful selection of genotypes that are able to contribute, or maybe put these traits together and be able to produce meaningfully, even in the face of climate change. So a clear understanding of how plants receive sunlight and how they use the sunlight to translate to food, it's very good for both the plant breeders, the physiologists, and even the computational biologists who help to make meaning out of the data, because the data is so noisy, a lot of environmental factors at play here. But then at the end of the day, when we get to understand this from different perspectives, then it will help us to make meaningful selection. It can help us to make selection index and then choose traits that are very much important and of biological significance to improving crop productivity.
I work on photosynthesis to improve crop yield, because even though it's quite challenging, it's one of the main strategies that could still offer us the yield increases that we need for the future.
One thing is becoming clearer: that photosynthesis sits at the center of conversations around crop productivity and food security.
And the importance of studying photosynthesis is that it may hold potential to improve, and thereby in the end finally improve yield.
Basically, before now, so many other traits have been considered with regards to the abiotic factors that have been responsible for crop improvement in agriculture, but not too many attention have been given to photosynthesis. And photosynthesis is very, very important, considering that when you talk about the source to sink and allocations for biomass productions in plants for food production, photosynthesis cannot be let out, because it's a very, very good process that leads to this to crop improvement. So it's very important to understand how this relates to genetics architecture, because we have several plants with their different canopy structures, and because they have their different canopy structures, the way they relate genetically differs, because you could have, even within the same varieties, different morphologies of their canopies, and that speaks so much of how they trap sunlight or solar radiations to translate into photosynthate, which is being used for biomass production in the plant for food production. So it's very, very important to see how that this complex traits of photosynthesis translates into yield in agriculture.
Hearing perspectives like this reminds us that understanding how plants convert sunlight into yield remains one of the most important scientific questions that is crucial for the future of food production. And conversations like this help move science, research, and development forward.